Hello, guys. Happy Ramadan. Hope you all are staying safe and healthy at your homes. Now, moving on with our online learning sessions, the topic that we will be discussing today is communication. This is a general topic for everyone whosoever is interested in understanding the process of communication. See, the thing is like there are many people who have defined communication in different ways. So what we will be doing is like we will be looking at and analyzing one of those definitions that is simple and easy to understand. You will find this definition on your screen. I will read it out for you. It says communication is a two-way process of sharing ideas, information, emotions, or opinions between two or more persons using a medium. So, in simple terms, communication is the process or method through which we express ourselves. For example, whenever we need to share some kind of information with others, or we have an idea or a feeling that we want to share with people, what do? We communicate. But the thing is like this communication does not take place in isolation. For example, a person standing in front of a mirror and talking to himself is not communication. For communication to take place, it has to happen between two or more people. It cannot happen in isolation. And the other thing that's there is like there is a certain pattern or a process or a method through which communication takes place. This process or pattern is called communication process or communication cycle. So in order to understand the concept of communication better, we first need to understand the pattern or the process through which communication takes place. Once we understand the pattern or the process that follows this communication process, we will be able to understand the concept of communication in a better way. So now you would see this communication process or communication cycle on your screen. The first thing that you see at the top of this is sender. So sender is the person who wants to communicate. For example, I am the sender. I have something to communicate with others. It may be an idea, it may be a piece of information, or a feeling about something that I want to share with others. So what do I do with my idea or the piece of information that I want to share? The first thing that I would do is like I would convert my idea or my feeling into a message that's understood by others. Then the next thing I will do, I'll choose the language in which I want to share my message. And this is called encoding. So in simple terms, encoding is converting your idea or your message, converting your idea or your feeling into a message that is understood by others. So once I have converted my idea or the piece of information that I want to share into a message, the next thing that I would do is like I will choose the channel or the medium through which I want to send across my message. That medium or that channel can be anything, like it can be a face-to-face interaction, it can be a telephonic conversation, or it may be a written message depending on the audience or the people that I want to communicate with. For example, I may like to express my idea or my emotion through a face-to-face interaction with a group of people, or I might want to do a telephonic conversation with few people and tell them about my idea or the piece of information that I have, or I may want to have a written medium. For example, I might put up my message or the piece of information that I have on social media like Facebook. I'll share my idea there and let people read about it and give their feedback. So there are different mediums that I can choose to send across my message. So after I have chosen the medium that I want to use to communicate, the next thing I will do is I will send across my message to the person or the group of people that I want to communicate with. So the receiver or the group of people that I want to communicate with will receive the message and decode it. What do we mean by decoding? Decoding means the person or the group of people that I am communicating with will interpret my message and understand its meaning. See, the communication process is effective only when the message that we are sending across is decoded in a right way. That means the message is interpreted in the right way. Its meaning is understood by the receivers. So in decoding process, the person will receive the message, they will interpret it and understand its meanings. What they will do then is like they will give their feedback. They will again choose a medium or a channel and give their feedback, and that will complete the communication process. So through this communication process, we were able to share our ideas. Like I was able to share my idea, I converted my idea into a message, then sent it across through a channel to the receivers. The receiver received it and decoded it and gave their feedback. So that completed the communication process. So now that we have understood the meaning of communication and the process through which it takes place, now let's try to understand the various ways or mediums through which we can communicate. So on the basis of medium or the channel of communication, communication is broadly of two types. One is the verbal communication and the other is non-verbal communication. The verbal communication involves the use of words and language in conveying the information. So the kind of communication in which we use words to express ourselves, the words can be in the form of spoken language or they can be in the form of written communication. That's called verbal communication. It's further of two types. We'll discuss about that. So these are the two types of verbal communication. One is the oral communication and the other is written communication. In oral communication, what we do is we communicate through spoken words. We use spoken words or spoken language to communicate. For example, we do face-to-face communication, or we do voice chatting, or we do a telephonic conversation or a video conferencing. In all these forms of communication, we communicate through spoken words. We speak and communicate. So any form of communication in which we use spoken words to communicate is called oral communication. And the other communication is written communication. In this form of communication, again, we use the words to communicate, but we use those words in the written form. For example, we communicate through letters, we communicate through SMSs, we communicate through mails, or we communicate through social networking. In all these forms of communication, how do we communicate? Through written words, through written language. We use the words but in written form. So these are the two types of verbal communication. Now the second type of communication is non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is totally the opposite of verbal communication. In verbal communication, we use words to communicate. In non-verbal communication, we do not use any words to communicate. So, how do we communicate then? We communicate through body language, through facial expressions, through hand movements. In the picture above, we can see like people communicating through their body language. They are showing their defensive, arrogant, and annoyed behavior through their positions without using any words. And in the picture below, we can assume like people being irritated, happy, confused, or worried through their body positions. They are not using any words, but they are communicating through their body language. They are stating their positions through their body language. In this another picture, we can see like people stating their state of mind through facial expressions, like they're showing their states of happiness, sadness, anger, and fear through their facial expressions without using any words. They are communicating. So these were the two types of communication. Then there are other forms of communication. There are 7 C's of communication, principles of communication, etc. But I think if we will discuss all that in a single session, that will make it like lengthy and boring. So I believe we should keep it short and simple for the time being and do not make it lengthy. Yeah, and yes, one more thing that comes to my mind is like many people might say that why I have used English language for this online session, as most of the students studying in government schools, especially in border areas, are not good with English language. Okay, I do agree with that. But at the same time, when we talk about employability skills, or when we talk about training our students in vocational subjects so that they can have better employment opportunities, So we need to understand that English language is the most spoken language in organized business world. So a student or a person with good communication skills in English language has better chances of getting employed in private sector compared to a person whose English communication is not that good. So we have to make our students listen to these English conversations in between once in a while. So I believe that this will develop their understanding of basic English language. Because most of the things that we learn is through listening. So when they will listen more, they will understand more. So I guess that would be it for the day. Hope to talk to you again in future at some point in time. Until then, you just take care of yourself. Bye.